The thing is, I did not think laughter could become a habit. 2 jokes. One quiet husband. No crime. Or that was how I named it when people laughed. At our friend's party, I taped a kick me sign to my husband's back because I thought the room needed one perfect joke. By morning, everyone knew he had stopped being mine. My name is Harriet Vale. I was 35, and I worked as a senior creative strategist at a social media agency where people paid me to know what made strangers laugh. The thing is, I saw myself as the woman who could read a room before the room understood itself. 2 jokes. One quiet husband. No crime, or that was what I told myself, before laughter started sounding like proof. The agency meeting room smelled like marker ink, cold coffee, and the fake citrus spray our office manager used on Fridays. I stood by the screen with a campaign deck open behind me. The slide said small, awkward moments made people share faster than polished joy. I had written that line myself. Of course, everyone loved it. Phoebe was sitting near the glass wall, tapping her pen against her teeth. She had known me since college, back when we both thought being sharp was the same as being free. She said after the meeting that I had a gift for finding the exact second before a room turned uncomfortable. I told her that was strategy. She said it was also survival, and we both laughed because it sounded clever enough not to examine. Matteo came by after work with my scarf and a paper bag from the bakery near his school. My husband was 38 and worked as a school counselor, which meant he spent his days helping children name feelings I did not want to name at home. He had remembered that the agency air conditioning made my neck ache. He always remembered things like that. Years before, that would have made me soft. Every Sunday, we used to walk to the corner bakery and split one cinnamon pastry because I said 2 made it feel ordinary. Matteo always gave me the middle piece, the softest part, and pretended he preferred the edge. That was real. I do not need to make it smaller. Phoebe looked at him holding the scarf and said he had substitute teacher energy in the sweetest way. I told her not to be mean, but my mouth had already smiled. Matteo saw the order of it. Smile first. Defense second. On the train home, he held the bakery bag on his lap and asked softly what had changed between us. What he meant was that he missed me. What I heard was that he wanted me to explain why I was no longer easy to please. I told him nothing had changed. I said work had been heavy. Of course, that was true enough to hide behind. That night, I saved Phoebe's line in my notes app. The brunch place Riley chose had brass lamps over every table and a front window that made everyone look better than they felt. The air smelled like butter, wet coats, and coffee beans burned too dark. Matteo sat beside me with the menu open, reading slowly because he liked to know what things cost before people ordered too much. The thing is, I did not start that morning planning to embarrass him. I went there wanting to be light. 2 mimosas. 1 crowded table. No reason for a harmless line to turn into a problem. Riley and Jules were already there when we arrived. Nina came after us with her hair still damp from rain. Phoebe slid into the chair across from me and kissed the air near my cheek. Oliver arrived last, phone in hand, already filming the table because he said weekends needed proof. Matteo asked the server whether the side potatoes had onion because Riley hated onion and forgot to say it herself. He did it quietly. Useful, careful, invisible. Riley thanked him, and the table moved on. Phoebe leaned toward me and asked if my husband always came with customer service training. She said it low enough to sound private and loud enough to be useful. I should have let it die. Instead, I laughed. Matteo looked at me for 1 second, then down at his menu. That look annoyed me because it asked for softness while people were watching. So I gave the table another line. I said Matteo read brunch menus like legal contracts and would probably ask the pancakes for references before committing. Riley smiled. Jules laughed once. Oliver lifted his phone and said that was good. The laugh came warm. It moved across the table and returned to me like a small payment. I added that my husband needed permission from the room before having a personality. Phoebe laughed harder. Oliver repeated the line. Nina did not laugh. She turned her coffee cup by the handle and looked at Matteo's hand on the menu. Matteo leaned closer and asked me quietly to stop. That should have been enough. A husband asking his wife not to make him smaller in front of friends should have been enough. But the request came under the table, private, careful, almost hidden. I heard shame trying to control the room. I heard him telling me to be less funny because he did not like being the price of the joke. I told him he was making it serious. Then I smiled at Phoebe as if nothing had happened. Of course, the rest of brunch got louder after that. Not because of the food, because I had found the rhythm. Matteo said almost nothing, and every time he went quiet, I filled the space with one more small cut wrapped in sugar. When he asked for water, I said he was pacing himself emotionally. When he offered to pay his part, I told the table he loved math more than romance. When he corrected me gently about the parking meter outside, I said he had been born middle-aged and was only growing into the face. People laughed less each time. That should have told me something. Instead, I decided they needed a better version of the joke. After brunch, Nina walked beside me outside under the awning. Rain tapped the pavement in little grey bursts. She asked if Matteo was okay. I told her he was fine. I said he had always been sensitive about harmless teasing. Nina said it did not look harmless from her side of the table. She did not say it dramatically. She said it like someone placing a glass down before it broke. I told her she was becoming too careful. Her face closed a little. She said maybe careful was not the worst thing at a table where only one person kept bleeding from the joke. Then she hugged me quickly and went toward the taxi stand. Phoebe watched Nina leave and rolled her eyes. She said Nina had always treated discomfort like a house fire. I laughed because I needed someone to make Nina's concern look dull. In the car, Matteo did not start the engine right away. The windshield held rain in crooked lines. He kept both hands on the wheel, though we were parked. He asked why I had told everyone he needed permission from the room before having a personality. Specific. Factual. One named thing. That was how Matteo came to pain. He did not bring the whole wound. He brought one clean edge and waited for me to touch it. I said everyone joked at brunch. He said he knew jokes. He said those jokes were starting to sound like instructions for how people should see him. I told him he was proving the point by making brunch into a meeting. I said if he wanted people to see fire, maybe he should stop acting like damp paper. His jaw moved once. Nothing else. He said he had asked me before not to make him the joke when we were with friends. He said it was not because he could not laugh at himself. It was because I waited until other people were watching, then acted like his hurt was part of the entertainment. What he meant was simple. What I heard was another soft man asking me to protect his image while mine disappeared beside him. The thing is, my mother had lived like that. She sat next to my father at dinners and became smaller every year because he was decent, quiet, and respected. Everyone liked him. Everyone called him steady. Nobody asked whether she was vanishing in the chair beside him. When she finally started speaking loudly, people called her difficult. I promised myself I would never become the woman people only noticed when she was rude. So I told Matteo that nobody liked a man who ruined the mood. I said he should learn to laugh before every room had to lower itself around his feelings. He started the car after that. At home, he carried the bakery bag inside and put it on the counter. He did not offer me the middle piece. He wrapped the whole pastry in paper and placed it near the coffee machine. That small action irritated me more than a fight would have. A fight would have given me something dramatic to answer. Silence made me responsible for the shape of the damage. Later, I texted Phoebe that Matteo needed a stronger sense of humor. She replied that stronger jokes could fix weak men. I stared at that message for longer than I should have. Riley's apartment was too warm by 8. The windows had fog at the corners, and the living room smelled like pizza boxes, cider, and cheap vanilla candles burning near the bookshelf. Someone had put music on through a speaker that kept cutting out whenever too many people connected to the Wi-Fi. The thing is, parties are easier than marriages. A party tells you right away if you are working. 2 laughs. 1 phone. No need to sit across from someone and ask why the room feels colder. Matteo came because I asked him to. Not sweetly. Not with any real invitation inside it. I told him Riley expected us both and that it would look strange if he stayed home after brunch had already made people weird. He said he would come. That was my husband. He still showed up when the showing up had become evidence against him. At first, he was good there. That annoyed me. He helped Riley carry drinks from the kitchen. He fixed the speaker when it cut out. He remembered Jules liked ginger beer and found one in the fridge behind a stack of cans. People thanked him, and he smiled in that low, modest way that made him look safe, useful, careful, loved by hosts, invisible beside me. Oliver noticed my face before I fixed it. He stood beside me near the kitchen counter, filming some stupid slow pan of the party for his story. He asked if Matteo had brought permission slips for everyone to enjoy themselves. I laughed too quickly. Phoebe heard and came closer. She had glitter near one eye and a drink she had not paid attention to in half an hour. She said my husband looked like the adult assigned to a school trip. Then she nodded toward the junk drawer Riley had left open while looking for bottle caps. Inside, it was a roll of blue painter's tape. A childish idea arrived so cleanly that it felt like it had been waiting for me. I tore a sheet from Riley's grocery list pad. The paper was white, soft at the corners. I took a black marker from beside the fridge and wrote 2 words in large block letters. Kick me. For 1 second, the paper looked stupid in my hand. Too young. Too obvious. Something boys did in hallways before they learned better. Then Oliver saw it and covered his mouth to hold in laughter. Phoebe bent over the counter shaking. Their reaction turned the stupid thing into a plan. I told myself it was harmless because it was old. A school prank. A throwaway joke. Nobody could accuse a piece of paper of being cruel if everyone knew the format. Matteo had his back to us, placing cider bottles into a bowl of ice. I walked behind him with the tape hidden under my sleeve. My hands were steady. That is the part I remember. Not guilt, not nerves. Steady hands and the smell of vanilla candle mixing with beer. I pressed the paper between his shoulder blades and smoothed the tape down with 2 fingers. He did not turn. He asked if I needed something. I said no. I said he was doing great. Phoebe made a sound behind me and covered it with a cough. For the next 10 minutes, the party rearranged around the sign. People saw it in pieces. First Oliver, then Phoebe, then a guy from Riley's office whose name I kept forgetting. Someone pointed. Someone whispered. Riley walked out of the kitchen and stopped with a stack of napkins in her hand. Matteo moved through the room carrying drinks, and laughter followed him in small bursts. Not enough for him to understand. Enough for him to feel the air change. He looked once at his shirt front, then at his shoes, then at me. I smiled like he had missed something funny and would thank me later when he found it. A friend gave him a light fake tap with 2 fingers near the back of his coat and moved away, laughing. Matteo turned, confused. The friend lifted both hands and said something about party rules. Matteo looked from face to face. The thing is, confusion can be useful in a joke. It stretches the moment. It makes the reveal bigger. I took out my phone. Riley said my name quietly from near the kitchen doorway. Not a warning exactly, more like someone seeing a glass roll toward the edge of a table. I ignored her because the room was almost ready. Matteo was near the hallway mirror when I walked up to him. The mirror was tall and narrow, with a scratch near the bottom and fingerprints along one side. I lifted my phone and started recording. I told him to turn around and look at himself. I made my voice bright. Fun. The voice I used when presenting a campaign concept to clients who wanted to believe risk had been measured. Matteo asked why. I said because the party had finally given him a personality. A few people laughed. Oliver said my name like a cheer. Phoebe clapped once. Matteo turned slowly toward the mirror. The paper came into view behind him. Kick me. His face did not perform anything useful. That was the first thing that went wrong. He did not give me shock or anger or comic embarrassment. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. His eyes moved from the words to my phone screen. Not to me. To the recording. The room laughed harder for half a breath. Then Matteo reached behind his shoulder and pulled the paper away. The tape made a small ripping sound against his shirt. It was not loud. I still hear it clearly. He looked at the paper in his hand. Nobody moved. He asked if I had recorded the whole thing. His voice stayed low. That made people listen. I told him he was being dramatic. I said it was a prank. I said everyone knew it was a prank. He looked around the living room. Riley had set the napkins down. Jules stood near the speaker with his hands in his pockets. Nina was gone. I had not even seen her leave. Oliver lowered his phone. Phoebe's smile stayed on her face, but the rest of her had gone still. Matteo stepped toward me, not fast, not angry. That mattered later, when people tried to describe it. He took a fresh piece of tape from the counter. He pressed the same paper to the front of my dress high enough that I could not pretend it had fallen there by accident. His fingers did not touch my skin. He only pressed the tape flat. Then he opened Riley's apartment door. He told me that since I wanted someone kicked, I could leave his life first. Indirect words never carry the full weight of how a room heard them. He did not shout. He did not call me names. He did not make a show of being wounded. He simply stood by the open door and waited. I laughed once because the alternative was letting the silence own me. No one joined. The hallway outside smelled colder than the apartment. Someone downstairs had cooked onions. The elevator light blinked red, then green. I stepped out with the paper still taped to my dress. Behind Matteo, the room did not return to noise. I woke up on Riley's couch with a wool blanket over my legs and the taste of old cider in my mouth. The apartment was grey with morning light, and the living room smelled like cold pizza and candle smoke. Someone had folded the kick me sign and placed it on the coffee table beside my phone. The thing is, a night can look different after the music leaves. 2 empty cans. 1 folded paper. No applause to explain what I had done. Riley was in the kitchen making coffee without looking at me much. She said Matteo had left before midnight. She said he had taken a cab. She said he had asked her to let me sleep there because he did not want a scene at home. That annoyed me. Even his distance came arranged neatly. I told Riley he had humiliated me in front of everyone. She poured coffee into a mug and said I had handed him the paper first. Not cruel, not dramatic, just a fact. I asked if she was on his side now. She said she was on the side of not pretending that the room had been laughing with him. After that, she went quiet. Riley had always hated being pulled into other people's fights, but she had also hosted enough parties to know when a joke changed the temperature of a room. My phone had 17 messages. Most were useless. Oliver had sent 1 laughing emoji at 11:08, then deleted it. Phoebe had written that things got intense but that Matteo had overplayed the victim thing. Nina had not written at all. Matteo sent 1 message at 8:12. He said he would leave anything I needed with Riley if I did not want to come home while he was there. No anger, no question, no hook for me to pull. Of course, that made me angrier than anger. I went home at noon. Our apartment smelled like laundry detergent, and the coffee Matteo always made too strong. His shoes were by the door, lined up. The bakery bag from brunch was still near the machine, folded at the top. Matteo was in the bedroom placing shirts into an overnight bag. I asked if he was enjoying the performance. He did not look up. He said the performance had been mine. That landed too cleanly, so I stepped around it. I told him he had made me look abusive over a stupid school prank. I told him he knew I never meant it like that. He placed 1 folded shirt into the bag, then another. He said I knew exactly what that kind of sign meant to him. 2 seconds. 1 shirt. No answer ready. The old school story came back before I could stop it. Matteo had told me during our 2nd year together. He had been 12, new at school, quiet, easy to corner. Some boys taped a note to his back during lunch, and the cafeteria laughed before he knew why. He had told me in bed, in the dark, where shame felt safer without faces. I had put my hand on his chest and said they were cruel little animals. He had trusted me with that. Now he looked at the bag instead of me and said the worst part was not the sign. It was the phone. He said I wanted his face saved for later. I told him he was making it sound ugly on purpose. He finally looked at me then. His eyes were not hard. That was worse. They were tired in a way that did not ask for repair. He said he had asked me to stop for months. He said I called him sensitive, boring, heavy, and weak every time he named the wound. He said the party had only made the pattern easy for other people to see. That was S4 Matteo, though I did not call it that. He was no longer holding one incident. He was holding the accumulation. The thing is, I had a tactic ready because I always had a tactic ready. I softened my voice. I told him maybe the joke went too far. I said maybe I had been trying to bring back fun between us. I said I was sorry if he felt embarrassed. If. That small word did more damage than the apology could cover. Matteo zipped the bag. He said I still could not say I embarrassed him, only that he felt embarrassed. My phone rang before I could answer. Mara's name filled the screen. Matteo's older sister. I let it ring because I did not want her voice in the room. Then the voicemail came. I played it after Matteo left for the hallway. Mara said she knew about the sign. She said Matteo had told me that story because he believed I would never use it against him. She said she did not need to shout to know what kind of line had been crossed. Her voice stayed calm. That made it harder to dismiss. After the voicemail, the apartment had too many ordinary things in it. The chipped blue bowl by the door, Matteo's counseling books on the shelf, my agency tote over the chair, the bakery photo stuck to the side of the fridge under a magnet shaped like a croissant. I took the photo down. It was from years before. Sunday morning. Matteo beside me outside the bakery, laughing with his head turned slightly away because he hated cameras. My hand was around his arm. I was laughing too, but not at him. With him. There is a difference. I had known the difference once. For a small, quiet minute, the door opened. I saw the brunch table, the car, the notes app, the sign. I saw myself watching for other people's faces before I watched his. I saw that I had not been trying to make him fun. I had been using him to make myself visible. The apartment hummed around me, the fridge, the street below, my own breathing. Then I closed the door. I told myself that if Matteo had given me more life, I would not have needed to create it. I put the photo back under the magnet and pushed it slightly crooked, as if that was the problem. Near the junk drawer, the roll of blue painter's tape sat on the counter. Matteo came out with his overnight bag. He picked up the tape, turned it once in his hand, and placed it on the dining table between us. No speech, no explanation. I told myself he was being theatrical. He left anyway. The office bathroom smelled like hand soap and the expensive grapefruit lotion Nina used to keep in her drawer before she stopped coming by my desk. I stood between the sinks with my phone propped against a paper towel dispenser, recording my face for the 4th time. The lighting was cruel, so I tilted my chin and started again. The thing is, stories need framing. 2 videos. 1 bad angle. No reason to let other people decide what happened. I told the camera that the party had been a prank. I said Matteo had been distant for months. I said he never fought for excitement in our marriage and waited until things were broken before speaking clearly. That part was true. Even now I know it was true. Matteo had loved quietly until quiet became a wall. He had waited too long to tell me he was lonely. He had acted like patience could replace heat. He had asked careful questions after the room had already turned cold. Being right about that one thing felt like a place to stand. So I stood there too long. I sent the video to the group chat with a message saying people had misunderstood the joke and that Matteo had turned a harmless prank into public punishment. The first reply came from Riley. She said the problem was not one prank. She said it was months of clips, jokes, and Matteo asking me to stop. Then she sent a screenshot from brunch, where I had texted Phoebe that Matteo needed a stronger sense of humour. She sent another from the party thread where Oliver had called the sign perfect content. Then she sent one message that made the bathroom feel too small. She said Matteo had not asked anyone to choose sides. He had only asked people to stop helping me hurt him. I stared at the screen until the automatic light clicked off and left me in the dim. Of course, I turned it back on. Oliver messaged me privately after that. He asked if I could leave him out of whatever this was becoming. He said he had deleted his party clips because he did not want workplace people seeing him in drama. Workplace people. That was what he called the friends he had entertained for 2 hours with my husband's humiliation. I asked if he was serious. He sent nothing for 12 minutes. Then he wrote that he never thought I would take the joke that far. I laughed at the sink. Not because it was funny, because the sound had nowhere else to go. Phoebe was supposed to be easier. Phoebe had always been easier. She had fed the sharpest parts of me and called them brave. She had laughed first, which made every second laugh feel safer. I sent her 3 messages asking how to spin it. Phoebe only reacted with a grey thumbs up. That was all. No call. No voice note. No wicked little sentence to make me feel chosen by the bad idea. Just a thumb. Later that evening, I went back to the apartment because Matteo had texted that he would be there from 7 to 7:30 to collect more clothes. The hallway smelled like someone else's dinner, garlic and tomatoes warm through the walls. I waited by our door with my keys in my hand. Matteo arrived at 7 exactly. He looked tired but not messy. That bothered me. I wanted him undone enough to prove I still had force. Instead, he carried a canvas bag and wore the dark coat I had bought him 2 winters earlier. He asked if we could keep this short. I said short was what he had made our marriage. He did not answer. He unlocked the door and went inside. The apartment looked less like ours already. His counselling books were gone from the shelf. His spare shoes were gone from the mat. The blue tape still sat on the dining table where he had left it, a small, ugly ring of evidence. I followed him to the bedroom and told him the video was not fair to me. I said people were acting like I had planned a crime when it was a joke from school. He folded a sweater into the canvas bag and said I had planned it, recorded it, and laughed after he had asked me to stop. Specific, clean, hard to bend. I told him he was enjoying being the wounded one because everyone always liked him better when he looked sad. He paused then. His hand stayed on the sweater. I thought I had finally reached him. I thought maybe anger would come, something hot enough for me to call mutual. Instead, he said he would have stayed if I could admit I enjoyed hurting him. The words were quiet. No drama. No second sentence. I told him he was sick for saying that about me. I said he had turned one party into a moral performance because he could not stand that people found me funny. He closed the bag. That was my refusal. Not because I did not understand. Because understanding would have required me to stand in the apartment without any audience at all. Matteo walked to the dining table and picked up the roll of blue tape. For a second, I thought he would throw it away. Instead, he placed it in his bag. I asked what he was doing with that. He said he was keeping things organized. No legal words, no threats. Just that calm, awful sentence. The tone was the threat. I followed him to the door and told him he could not make a divorce out of tape and hurt feelings. He looked at me then with a strange kind of mercy. He said this was not about tape. Then he left. After he was gone, the hallway outside our apartment seemed to hold its breath. I opened the group chat again. Jules had left. Nina had not replied in 2 days. Riley's last message sat there, neat and final. Oliver's name showed as unavailable. Phoebe was active and not speaking. The thing is, I had always known how to work a room. Now there was no room left. The office lobby had polished concrete floors and a plant wall that always smelled faintly damp. Monday morning came in with rain on everyone's coats and the soft buzz of people scanning badges. I was carrying a coffee I did not want when the receptionist called my name. A woman in a navy coat stood near the front desk with a large envelope in her hand. Riley was there too, not beside her but close enough that I understood before anyone explained why her face had gone pale. The woman asked if I was Harriet Vale. I said yes because there was no clever way not to be myself in my own office lobby. She handed me the envelope and said I had been served with a petition for dissolution of marriage with temporary orders. She said the first temporary orders hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks from Thursday. I signed where she pointed. My name came out too large on the line. Then I held the pen longer than I needed to, as if keeping it meant the paper had not fully arrived. The envelope named Mateo Ortega as petitioner. It requested exclusive use of the apartment for my husband, temporary financial arrangements, and written communication only until the hearing. Attached exhibits referenced the party video, the group chat screenshots, Riley's statement, Oliver's deleted clip, and prior messages where Mateo had asked me to stop making him the joke. No new miracle, no hidden trap, just the things I had already made. I tried to tell the receptionist it was about a prank that people had misunderstood. She looked at the envelope, then at the sign-in tablet, and said visitors still had to be logged properly. Riley did not speak. She only looked at the coffee in my hand. It had started leaking through the lid onto my fingers and I had not moved. Oliver deleted his remaining posts by lunch, left the group chat, and told people he had never encouraged the prank. I moved into a short-term rental above a dry cleaner because Mateo kept the apartment under the temporary order. My shared account access changed to scheduled transfers while expenses were reviewed. Nina stopped answering, Jules removed me from the weekend dinner list, and Riley gave Mateo the saved screenshots. Oliver protected himself with the same mouth that had laughed first. My agency took me off a campaign about playful public moments after a client asked why my name sounded familiar. The thing is, I thought laughter protected me from becoming invisible. I thought if the room looked at me, I was safe. I thought making him smaller gave me more space to stand. It only cost me the one person who had seen me before I needed witnesses. In the rental room, I found a strip of blue painter's tape stuck to the bottom of my shoe. The last thing he gave me was not a kick, but a door closing without noise,